Hey everybody, this is Mike LePond from Symphony X and Mike LePond's Silent Assassins, and I'm blowing it up on Capital Chaos TV.
So this is Zoran Fyodorovich, a.k.a. the Mighty Z, of Capital Chaos TV and Metal Gods Radio. We have Michael LePond of Symphony X and Mike LePond's Silent Assassins on the phone. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you, man. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. And how important is coffee in the morning?
For me, it's vitally important because I kind of don't have the same schedule as, I guess, your typical musician. What I usually do is I get up around 5 o'clock in the morning, and I have a full schedule of what I have to practice from what project or tour or recording session. So I get up at 5 a.m. and that coffee just wakes me up and I'm ready to rock and roll.
And what is your cup limit? 2, 3? Limit?
Yeah. I mean, there's only a limit because I have some stomach issues. But if I didn't have any stomach issues, there'd be no limit. But definitely 1 or 2 usually does the trick, and then I can, practice for like 2 to 3 hours.
And I recently switched from a creamed coffee to black coffee. Are you a cream, sugar?
Yeah, I need all the all the sugary stuff. I usually use now I switched to a sugar-free creamer. So it could be either like whatever, caramel or Italian cream or something. But yeah, trying to keep the sugar low, but still enjoy coffee at the same time. It's a tall order, I'll say that.
Your coffee is similar to your music. It has a flavor.
Very well said. I agree 100%.
It's not like me, just black.
Yeah, that's a tough one, man. You're tough. You must be a tough SOB to do it just black. I love it. That's great.
Let's see here now. Let's talk a little bit about your ethnic background, where you were from, where you spent most of your life, and what's kept you there.
Oh, good question. Well, my family came over from Italy, so I'm Italian American, and I lived in New Jersey my whole life. Grew up in Newark, New Jersey, then moved to Union, New Jersey, and now I live in West Milford, New Jersey, in a log cabin, which I love. And actually, what's kept me there is because it's kind of Symphony X headquarters here in New Jersey. If it wasn't, I think I would have been gone long ago because the taxes are just insanity. Where
would you have gone? Would you have moved to Texas? I mean, you wouldn't have moved to California for sure. But what other states appeal to you?
Well, I like a warm climate, so that's going to eliminate a lot of states right there. But, yeah, any place with a warm climate, with who's not as with the taxes like New Jersey or New York, and so yeah, maybe Texas or Florida or something like that would have been great.
And as a lifelong history buff, have you delved much into your own ancestry?
There was a period of time where I went on that website Ancestry.com, and they were able to provide me with some stuff, but I was only able to go back to like maybe sometime in the 1800s. I really couldn't find anything before that, but it was cool what they had on file and what I was able to find anyway.
Are there any nefarious characters in your history?
Not that I could find. It would have been cool if there was, but yeah, it seems like it's all pretty much, just Italians coming over and just setting up shop here in the New York, New Jersey area.
I myself am a Serbian. I'm of Serbian descent. My parents are from Bosnia. And,
nice.
So I grew up as Orthodox Christianity was a large part of my upbringing. I'm assuming that Catholicism was yours.
Yes, yeah. Catholicism definitely was the religion for my kind of people, and I went to a Catholic grammar school and a Catholic high school.
Did you participate willingly in maybe the choir or other? Like I sing along with the choir, just because it gives me an opportunity to participate and helps kill the time. But did you ever participate in the church at all?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really that good as a singer myself, but there was a few times where the church had some events where they needed some musicians, so I would play a little bit, but mostly the churches that was near my house didn't have live music or anything like that, so not too much on that end.
Oh, and how did you first get into music? Was it through television, radio, or was it through your parents?
Well, I'd say to go all the way back, my mother and father, loved music. So my mother had music playing in the house all day long. She had the radio on, so I was hearing a lot of 70s pop. I was hearing a lot of 60s doo-wop and 50s rock and roll. And it actually was good because it kind of planted the seed in my mind. And then as I was going to school, 6th grade, 7th grade, I noticed people listening to, the Rolling Stones and the Beatles and Cheap Trick and bands like that. And I became intrigued, and then one day I was just home and the radio was on and this riff came on the radio. It was Iron Man from Black Sabbath. And I was like, that, I've never heard a guitar sound like that in my life. Whatever that is, I got to know. And then that's how I got into the hard rock, heavy metal thing. And then the final icing on the cake was when I was 13, my father took me to see Kiss in New York City. And, if you think of a mind of a 13-year-old and, you see all the crazy Kiss show and Gene Simmons is doing all his antics and all that stuff. And of course, right after that, I told my father, I want to be a rock star bass player.
Oh yeah, it's like Saturday morning cartoons.
Yeah, in
the flesh, right?
Yeah, like you were watching some superheroes, from a comic book, So it was, it definitely inspired me. And then my father bought me a bass, and I started taking bass lessons right away. And my first goal as a bass player at the time was to learn every Kiss song that was out at the time. And I got through most of it, actually. And it was actually a good training ground for bass playing because Gene's bass lines were simple enough to learn, but they also kind of, taught you a little bit about playing some blues and walking the bass around the chords and all that. So all in all, it worked out great.
Yeah, he's not just a root note player. He doesn't play just like a guitar player. He adds a little flavor here and there.
Yeah, especially the Kiss songs in the 1970s. He used to move the bass around a little bit and, kind of like the Stones or the Beatles, and I guess that's what he grew up on. So,
sure.
And, and it was good. It was good to learn that kind of stuff,
And Gene is primarily a pick player, right?
Yes, he was a pick player. And, when I started taking the bass, I didn't really know what the difference was between a pick or playing with your fingers or what the advantages or disadvantages. But the bass player that I took lessons from just made me play with my fingers, and then I just kept that going from there. He was like a jazz bass player, you know, and you know, but I kept asking him, hey, can you teach me this Kiss song? And you know, and he was probably like, oh boy, you know.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I took some guitar lessons as a kid. All I wanted to learn was Wild Thing.
right.
You know, they were trying to teach me Green Sleeves, and I was like, oh no, I don't want to. No, Wild Thing. And they never taught me Wild Thing, and I never really learned Green Sleeves, so I don't know.
Right.
Whatever. When you're a kid, right?
Yeah, you're a kid. You know, you just want to learn what you like, and you're not really thinking about what the teacher wants to teach you. You know.
Right. You might not have as open a mind as you are as an adult.
Exactly.
Now, Silent Assassins is your baby, right?
Yes. Silent Assassins is a project that I began maybe around 2012, and then I put out the first solo album 2014, put out a second one in 2018, and now I'm fixing to put out another one on June 26th of this year.
Horror of Babylon.
Yes, Horror of Babylon. And, you know, like all my solo albums, the lyrical content focuses on history, mythology, literature, and, you know, for me, those kind of lyrics go, you know, really well with heavy metal music. You know, they're really epic. The stories are epic, and I think it goes great with the music. I never really was into, you know, writing lyrics about, like, you know, boy meets girl, boy loses girl, that kind of thing. And then it wasn't until, you know, maybe around 15 years ago when I started to get into history a lot, that then I was like, oh, okay, now I know what to write about once I started to learn all about that stuff.
How do you like being a lyricist, and have you contributed lyrics in other bands you're in?
You know, being a lyricist, it is really hard. I mean, it's so hard to just fit the right lyrics into each line. You know, it's like you might write like like a poem and say, oh, here's the lyrics for a song. But then once you try to put it to a song, you'll find that maybe the line is too long or too short. But, you know, you want to say what you want to say, and you got to try to figure out how to say it the same way but different, and then finding words that will rhyme and finding words that sound the way that, you know, you want the sound to get the message across. So it's really, I really don't like doing it, but once I finish a lyric, then I'm like, oh, okay, that's really cool. I like that, you know. So for Silent Assassins, you know, I write all the lyrics. For Symphony X, I contribute lyrics too, but everybody in the band contributes lyrics. And, you know, some of my other stuff, I also play with Ross the Boss, co-founder of Man of War, and there I don't write any lyrics at all. So in a lot of projects I do, I take different roles, and I think actually that makes me, you know, it makes me learn a lot more about, you know, the different things you need to do in a band, whether it's even, might not even be writing, it might just be arranging, you know, and or producing or things like that. So, you know, everything, all the different roles I have is kind of fun, and I appreciate, you know, and I just love doing it. I love being a musician. Are the lyrics pretty much straightforward, or are they rainbow in the dark, open to interpretation? You know, I was never good at the open into interpretation thing. I find that I'm best as a storyteller. So, you know, I'll find like a cool story, and I'll put it together with the music. And for me, that's a lot easier. I was never, I'm not good at the double interpretation stuff, and I'm also not good at really introspective kind of lyrics. So I just kind of stick to what I'm good at, and so I just basically do like stories, documentary type things.
Did you delve into the Book of Revelation much for your Whore of Babylon?
Yes, well, that's and that's exactly where I got the inspiration. And usually, what I do is I watch a lot of the History Channel, and I was just on whatever. Just you never know when you're going to get inspired to do something. So, I just happened to be watching the History Channel, and they were talking about the Book of Revelation, and I love all that stuff. It's so fascinating. And then they talked about the Whore of Babylon, and I'm like, wow, that is like a really epic kind of idea. So I thought about doing it, and I thought about, well, maybe I'll do it where, it's not really like a heavy metal song. It's, maybe it's something, because I wanted to get across, this demon kind of woman who's beautiful that will seduce you and take you to hell. So I thought of maybe having a real kind of, not even a heavy metal song, just a real kind of Middle Eastern sounding belly dancer, kind of seductive kind of song. So that inspired me to put something together like that, and that was kind of cool. It's I always think it's kind of fun to break up an album a little bit from all the heavy metal, just go a different direction from time to time, just to break things up a little bit, give the listener a little break.
The band sorry about that. The band is two guys in their mid-50s, and what appears to be a teenager, an accomplished guitarist and drummer, Lance Barnewald. It looks like he's 20 or 18 or something like that. He's older than that, though, right?
Not much older than that. I think Lance right now is 24, I think. Yeah, the singer, Allan and I, we're both from the New Jersey rock scene, and we grew up on classic heavy metal, and so we've known each other forever. Now, I met Lance through Ross the Boss. He was like a family friend, and he was a big Symphony X fan. So I got to talking to him, and I saw that this guy was an extremely talented individual. He not only was he a great drummer, but his main instrument was the guitar, and his playing didn't sound like someone who was young and unseasoned. He could shred with all the new school guys of his age range, but he also had the feel of an older guitar player. He had really, really good old kind of heavy metal feel when he needed to. So at such a young age, he had so many weapons in his arsenal, and I just loved the way he played. So I asked him if he would be interested in playing and recording, and it turned out great. So it's me and Allan and basically Lance, and I have some other guests from time to time, but that's the core of the project.
And you played with Lance in the Ross the Boss. Is that right?
Yes, for a brief time period, Lance was playing drums for Ross the Boss, and then eventually, he moved on. But that was when I kind of basically met him during that time.
Now, the album, from the artwork to the music, is not quite as bright and cheerful as what I've come to expect from most power metal. You want to talk a little bit about darkness?
Right on. As far as the album cover, the one thing that I did not want was fantasy art. I just felt that, too many power metal bands have that, and, that's great. I'd love it. But I wanted to do something a little different, So I was trying to, go back and forth with with the artist who was doing the album, and I wanted something that maybe even looked something little 80s, So and then we went back and forth. First, which she came to me with the woman in a full body, and then I was like, well, I mean, it looks cool, but she's not dark enough. And then finally we settled on the final album cover. And I just wanted to get across a dark, seductive, beautiful. It's kind of hard to get all that in one, but I did the best I could, But I just was I wanted something that's more, kind of like a portrait like that, not so much the fantasy art thing.
Now, is the new album a continuation of 2018's Pawn and Prophecy?
No, actually, it depends. If you mean continuation, like with the same style, yes, absolutely. But it's not it's not a continuation of like a concept that was going on in the Pawn and Prophecy album. I mean, it's all the three albums kind of have the same formula. It's classic heavy metal with a little folky kind of Celtic stuff thrown in at times, and this album is no different. So I mean, basically, that's really the only thing that the albums actually have in common, but it's kind of the same stylistically as far as metal goes.
It's a varied album. It brings us down for a breather, or it brought me down for a breather with Champion. Would a Champion typically be the end of side A? Actually,
yeah. I mean, I being older, I do think of the side 1, side 2 thing, and I wanted the Champion to be like the final track of side 1, and usually I kind of have a formula in my head where, you start off with like a fast song, and then a couple of cool mid-tempo ones, and then you start to bring it down, and then when side 2 starts, you bring it right back up with like a real heavy tune, and then the final song of the album is like the long epic, But I definitely had that in mind. Champion, I actually had given to Allan, but he called me one day and he thought it might be cool if a female sang the song. And I was, totally open to that. I thought it was, hey, that sounds like fun. So, I called up a friend of mine. Her name is Sarah Teets, and she's in a hard rock metal progressive band called Mind Maze. They've been around a while, and I asked her if she'd be interested in singing on it. And, it was great. She came down, and she sang, and she even played some flute, which was kind of fun, too.
How has the writing and recording process changed from album to album, and do you set a time limit on perfection?
Very good. I love that second part of the question. The recording process over the three albums has basically been the same. I kind of got a little formula together. Michael Romeo, guitar player for Symphony X, has his own studio, and he is always really nice, and he records me. So I'll record basically everything there. And then I send it out to be mixed. So I've done that for all the three records, and it's worked out really, really well. Just keep everything in-house, not too much moving around, and that's how things don't get lost. So, the second part of your question, as far as the perfection, it's always, I always struggle with, you know, when do you walk away from a song? You know, at what point, because, you know, theoretically a song can never be like perfect, right? So at what point do you walk away? So you know, this haunts me with every song, because there's so many times where, like, I'll just hear something from obsessing over the song, which I should never do, but I always do. You know, I'll obsess over the song and I'll listen, and then I think I'm hearing this and I think I'm hearing that, and then I, you know, tell the engineer, he thinks I'm nuts. And then usually what always happens, never fails, it'll get to a point where I just get so frustrated that I say, okay, that's it, I'm out, you know, and I don't even want to listen to it anymore. And then I know that whatever I think is going on is probably just in my head, and no one else is going to hear, because no one else is going to, you know, put their ear to the speaker, you know, like a crazy person. So I kind of, there's always that one point where you're just like, all right, I'm being crazy, let me just walk away, and usually that kind of works. But yeah, it's tough, you know, when you're writing songs and you just want it to be the best it could be. Sometimes you kind of go over the top and it gets a little silly.
But I can imagine the point where you become a little bit of an emotional wreck.
Yeah, right. I do. There's times where I'm laying in bed and I'm just like, oh man, is that Paul? That you know, oh man, I think I hear scratching. Why can't anybody else hear it? I hear the scratching going on, and I'll put the headphones on, you know, and I'm like, you know, and then someone will calm me down and be like, listen, they're just most people are just listening on their phone. They're not focusing on, you know, that one word, you know, that. So, you know, I'm glad I have, you know, other people in my life to bring me back to earth.
Yeah, it's important. It's important to have people that will be honest with you and you know, set you straight. I think. I mean, a lot of people, a lot of my friends don't want to rock the boat, you know, and they'll say things like, "Well, I respect your opinion," and leave it at that. But I think it's important to have people. I mean, obviously, we all respect each other's opinions, but I think it's important to have people just say, hey, check it out. Stop. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, like, you know, the engineer would usually say to me, be like, you know, honestly, dude, I don't really hear what you're hearing. And, you know, and I'm sure no one else will hear what you're hearing, but, you know, if you want to change it, we could change it. Usually when someone says that to me, it kind of brings me down to earth, and I'm like, yeah, you're right, you know. So, you know, yeah, it's good when people are, you know, honest with you, you know.
You've been playing for quite some time, and where do you hear your influence in others?
Where do I hear my influence in other people?
Correct.
You know, that's a really weird one, because being the bass player for Symphony X, it's when you're a bass player in a progressive metal band, the music is so complex and it's so busy that the bass, you know, kind of has to stay in its area, you know. So usually that is the case. You know, I either got to just kind of stay with the guitar or stay with the drums. There's not much crazy soloing going on. And, you know, I'm most famous for being in Symphony X. So the people that tell me that I've influenced them are more technical players. Now, the only problem with that is I'm really not into technical bass playing. You know, I'm really into more melodic kind of stuff. Now, in Silent Assassins, the bass is cranked up really loud and it's going for it, you know. So maybe in a few years that'll start to show, you know. You know, I'm waiting to hear if anybody kind of runs with that thing. But usually when people tell me, hey, you're such a big influence, it's more like in a technical sense. And I feel sometimes that people don't really understand my style, and I think the Silent Assassin stuff is going to help my fans kind of see what I really, really sound like.
Yeah, the album sounds great. It comes out, Horror Babylon has it been pushed to June, or is it coming out this month?
It's been pushed to June 26th.
I see. Did you record any bonus tracks for special releases, the Japanese market, Digipacks, toys? What can we expect?
I had a bonus track prepared, and if the record company asked me for it, I would have gladly given it to them. But the record company didn't ask me for a bonus track, so I have something that is not on the album. If I need it in the future.
Is it a cover song?
Yes, it is a cover song.
And you have not told me what it is, so I'm not going to press you for it. Surprises are a good thing.
Right. I can't tell you exactly what it is, but I can tell you it's a Christmas song.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
Okay.
And just a couple more questions here. You recently toured the States with Ross the Boss, is that right?
Yeah, we toured the States in January and February, and it was a cool tour. And it was, we just got the tour in just before the virus started, which was cool. And we were in an RV supporting Ross's new album. It was a great experience. It's awesome to play with Ross, because I was always a big Manowar fan when I was in high school and college. So it's definitely an honor to play with him.
And that new Ross the Boss album is a crusher. Yeah,
it's a little heavier than I guess what a lot of his fans would expect. Born of Fire, and he's still Ross. He's just on fire 24 hours a day. He's a warrior. He lives it and breathes it. He's got more energy than I could ever dream of having, and he's the real deal, and he's not going to be giving up anytime soon.
Yeah, I'm friends with him on Facebook. And he's not related to Kinky Friedman. I learned that talking to him recently, or Marty Friedman.
Right. That's cool. And what's amazing about Ross is Ross was one of the first acts to just come back out and say, hey, we're going to reschedule, because we were supposed to go on tour in Europe in in April. And of course that got postponed, but recently Ross just took the bold move, and he's like, hey, we're coming back in November. Here's the dates. So I'm hoping that the tour happens. It would be awesome to get the music back out there, and my fingers are crossed.
Yeah, I booked at a venue in Sacramento called On the Y. It's a little hole in the wall dive bar. I book a lot of metal bands and rap shows as well there. And I just said, screw it, I'm going to book some dates in July.
Awesome.
The worst case scenario is they get postponed or they get canceled, but might as well attempt to continue, especially in the music world, continue to keep the ball rolling, or at least prep the ball to roll.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. And you know what? If people see that, hey, this band is playing, say, in your bar, it gives people hope, too. It really does. Makes people say, like, oh, wow, that sounds great. I'm excited, and there's here in Jersey, I know a couple places want to open, July, August if they can, but we'll see,
Everybody wants to open.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Nobody wants to stay closed. Now, finally, how's the touring world evolved over time within the last, say, 10 years, and how different and challenging is 44 compared to 54?
Yeah, I mean, let's see. So if you go back 10 years, I think the crowds basically are kind of the same. The draws are still basically the same. Heavy metal, from what I've seen out there, has not lost any steam, especially in Europe. So it's been kind of the same overall. The only difference I'd say in the last 10 years is now bands need to tour more. They have to tour more because their sales are just getting clobbered by illegal downloading and streaming and all this stuff. So that we're all getting hammered. So we kind of, being on the road now is like something that you have to do. And as far as me, yeah, definitely as I get older, it's definitely getting a little harder, I have to say, so, I try to definitely get enough sleep, eat good, and not exert myself too much, because it is, being on the road really is, it takes a toll on your body, I mean, wake up every day, from the bunks in the buses, they're not the most comfortable things. So I wake up, my back is like, destroyed. And, you just got to kind of make do with it. But, I wouldn't trade it for the world, because I just love playing heavy metal music. I love playing in front of crowds. And, no matter what obstacles present themselves, and I'll just find a way to overcome it. I've also, for me personally, also, I have a chronic disease called Crohn's disease, and this is a really bad stomach problem. So that kind of throws another nasty thing into the mix as far as touring too. But I just love what I do so much, and I just figure out how to get past it.
Well, Mike, thank you for taking the time to talk to me. And the new album, Or Babylon, comes out in, what you said it was June?
Yes, June 26th.
June 26th on via Silver Lining Music.
That's correct.
Cool. Yeah, the album is great. I listened to it in its entirety yesterday, and wow, what a ride!
Awesome, man. I appreciate it. And that's that's the way I wrote it. It was meant to be listened to from beginning to the end. And that's what for the maximum